to the first edition of Write On, which is going to be a series to help original independent authors finish their book and bring it all the way down the path to self-publishing. Because we live in a phenomenal time in human history where you don't need a publisher, you don't need to go down the legacy publishing route to get your book out there and to your fans, to your friends, to your family, even just to yourself. And this is something that I had to learn as a independent author for myself, that I learned a lot of this stuff on YouTube, and I figured I might as well give back to YouTube by helping other people with all of the information that I found that allowed me to do this, because it's kind of distributed between a bunch of different places. You know, you got to look at a bunch of different videos. So hopefully through this series, I'll be able to both help you figure out your own best practices, some of my best practices, and some of the things that allowed me to bring 3 different books to fruition and have 2 of them on the bestsellers for Canadian Amazon, all without any previous authorship experience. And if I can do it, trust me, you can do it too. And this is the topic of today's video, is anybody can be published. This is both an amazing thing as well as a bit of a scary thing. But I want to start by distinguishing what the difference is between your regular legacy publishing, what you would expect through a publishing house, having to go through agents and publishers, and the much more rudimented historic way to bring a book to market and get it into all sorts of different stores and go on book tours, and what you would expect when you think about a traditional author, somebody who makes a living and has a career doing this stuff. Well, that can't be me, right? Well, not necessarily anymore. In fact, you can skip that whole process and get right to the final product of having a book with your name on it, with your words in it, in your hands physically, and out to anybody else around the world through a variety of different mediums these days. Now, if we were to talk about legacy publishing to begin with, some of the things that would stop a lot of independent authors like myself, or perhaps yourself out there, from even trying to do this in the past, is it's very difficult to break into as a market. You as an unknown entity are probably seen as a liability to most publishers, and that's not really a knock on you or your skill or your story or anything like that. They just don't know you. And so from a basic economic standpoint, why would they risk their money, their effort, their time to try to make you a known quantity? Well, you're unknown, and sure, that makes it very difficult to break into, and that's what has been a gatekeeper in this area for a very long time. Is it's turned into a who's club of who do you know, a little bit of nepotism doesn't hurt kind of thing, or maybe you've got credentials in a tangential area that you can then bridge over, but it makes it very hard to break into with all these different barriers to entry and gatekeepers. And there are all sorts of, and they still exist, all sorts of gatekeepers to try to get into authorship if you're going the legacy route. Now, it still exists. People are finding ways, whether they are a celebrity, whether they are an influencer, whether they've got some sort of notoriety to their name to begin with, to find their way as a first-time author into a publishing house. It's possible, but again, that's a very, very difficult mountain to climb for somebody who doesn't have any of those things, but has that dream of becoming an author. And I'm here to tell you, you can do it too. And what we're going to show you is that you don't need the legacy publishing houses to do that. Because they're not going to want to push that financial commitment onto somebody that they can't guarantee isn't going to push it back, because they're not looking to be a donation bank. They're not looking to take risks. What they're looking for is return on investment, like any good business should. So you can't really fault them for that. But for me personally, there are some pros and cons to both that I want to cover. And the biggest con for me as an independent author who has written both nonfiction and fictional works now, both of which I've managed to get as bestsellers in their own variety on Canadian Amazon over time, is I don't like the idea of a publishing house taking my IP, my intellectual property that I have created for my own creative endeavors, and ransoming it back to me. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you are to get the interest of a publishing house and they say, well, we're going to need to put you through our editors and we're going to need to make sure that it hits all of these criteria. No, we don't like the length, we don't like the look, it needs to have all of these check boxes so that we can feel like it's going to be a sellable unit, a product to push out into the marketplace. And they have those separate barriers that's going to not only squish down your creativity, but actually change your product, and that you have to sign a bunch of different contracts if you're going to get into that allow them to get into the kitchen and start changing with the recipe, all the way up to and including, by the way, if you've got fictional work, character names, character personalities, the character arc, and can really mess around with what you've created before it'll even get to market. And at that point, for me, it's not even my work anymore. It's a collaboration, and it's almost a forced collaboration, and I don't like that personally. If that's something that you're willing to sacrifice to get to market, okay, but I'm here to tell you that you don't have to, because the avenue that I've taken and that anybody today can take is self-publishing. And the biggest difference for me is there are no gatekeepers. Nobody is stopping you but you from going and self-publishing yourself today. There is a low financial bar for entry. And when I say low, I mean like you can be self-published in the hundreds of dollars. And that's really dependent on you of how much you want to put into the bells and whistles of your own book. By that, I mean like what kind of editing you want done, what kind of cover art do you want, what type of formatting do you want. These are things you want to source out to professionals. You can do it a la carte, and that's all up to you as the self-publisher, which is great, which means that you can set your own budget from $0 to $10,000 if you want to. But that's all up to you. And what's awesome about this is you don't have to give up any intellectual property rights to your works. For self-publishing though, there are some great options out there, whether you want to have physical copies, digital copies, audio copies. All of those are available to you for almost no money. You can just create and upload it like you're uploading to social media, except there are different platforms that you can do this through. And I want to talk about at least two of the more popular ones right now, which I've used personally, although there's a variety of other ones that are popping up year to year. We're in the year 2026 right now, so who knows if you're watching this in 2030 what's out there. But as of right now, the big one, the big elephant in the room is Amazon, which goes through their own publishing service, KDP, I think is the acronym. And you can get into that. It's just like signing up for any other platform. It's very, very simple. You can do it in a couple minutes. And then after that, what you can have access to once you go through uploading your manuscript and uploading your cover art, and we'll go through this on another video in detail, is you have the ability to go out digitally almost immediately. They'll have like some quality checks that they'll go through and make sure that it hits their standards as far as legal standards, so you're not putting out anything that's hurtful or dangerous or whatever by their standards. It's very easy to pass, and then you can be on somebody's digital Kindle immediately. You can also set it up to go to what's called print to order or print on demand, POD service. So they have their own POD service through this, which means that you don't have to buy quantities of books. You don't have to have an inventory that you bring 1,000 books in or 5,000 books in, and it's a really big financial burden immediately to have to try to sell back for a profit, which was again the traditional method of doing this. If you go through a publishing house, they're going to buy or print 50,000 copies of your book and send it out to different distribution networks, whether it's Indigo, Chapters, Barnes & Noble, wherever they go out to their brick and mortar locations that they have contracts through, and then they sell at a profit. They take their profit, the store takes their profit, and you get a little bit by the end. Now, it's different contract to contract what that would look like, but with this print on demand through Amazon, you get a percentage of each sale that is, you don't ever have to have any amount of books in hand. They get print printed to order, the same way that you would walk into, say, a fast food restaurant. You walk into McDonald's and they basically print to order your burger. You order at the counter and they make it right there and send it to you, the customer. Well, it's kind of the same thing as a middleman from Amazon. Is your customer goes to Amazon, your potential customer, and says, hey, I really like Drew's new book. I'm going to click to purchase. And they purchase the paperback version or the hardcover version. And Amazon gets that order. They print it in their print shop to order one off, and they will send it out to that customer so that you don't have to have inventory on hand. You don't have to fulfill that personally and send it out through the mail. They do that all for you, and for that benefit of both getting you out as a self-published person, as well as the printing and the distribution, they will take a percentage of each sale and then basically culminate the profit that is left over for you in this sort of bank account that they send out to you monthly, which is a great offer, especially for independents that have no name, that are starting out and trying to get out there. Now, the con, in my opinion, with having worked through KDP and Amazon and Audible, which is an Amazon affiliate now for audiobooks, is you don't make a whole heck of a lot off each sale, so it becomes a quantity thing, and that kind of is what it is in the market out there right now. And it's one of the things you sacrifice for jumping the line, is you're going to sacrifice more of the initial profit per sale, but it does help you get a resume, it helps you get a portfolio, and it helps you get out to a readership that can become your fans for your next book, and hopefully you can snowball that over time. Now, the other one out there, the big one on the market these days, is called Ingram Spark. And if you haven't heard of Ingram Spark, I assume everybody's heard of Amazon because they've used it for all sorts of things. But Ingram Spark is specifically for authors, and it does essentially the same thing that Amazon does. Now, there's a variety of differences to it. They have kind of their own internal market similar to Amazon, that is, since it's specific to readers and authors, you're going to have a whole lot more people that are going there. I shouldn't say a whole lot more, but the only people that are going to Ingram Spark are authors and readers. So it's not like you're going into Amazon to buy your dog food and a stereo and some headphones and a book. The only people going in through Ingram Spark's marketplace are there for books. So you have a hungry marketplace specifically for the products that you're creating. Another one which is kind of particular to authorship is, for whatever reason, at least up to the year 2026 and before, Amazon didn't allow you, and still doesn't as far as I'm aware, allow you to do pre-orders for hard copies of your book. So say I've got a book that's coming out August 1st, and it's April right now, and I want to set up a pre-order so that the moment that it goes live, all the people that have pre-ordered my book, it will strike an immediate trigger pull and will print all of those and send them out to all those people all the way around the world. And what that does is it makes a big splash for the algorithm the moment that you go live, and that helps boost you up so that they're showing you on what's hot and what's new. And if you're trying to hit that bestseller thing, it's really important to have a big boom off the bat, because it builds that wave and allows for you to start climbing that ladder up to that first place in whatever category that you've set your book up in, which is a totally different thing we'll get to on another video. But having pre-orders is huge, because otherwise you gotta sort of lead people by the nose to go and check out your book the moment that it drops, the day that it drops, hoping that they're paying attention and wanting to buy it, which is a really big ask out there. Whereas if you have 2 months of runway to coax all of your people through social media and through word of mouth and through family and friends and whoever, your dog groomer, to go and pre-order this thing, then you don't have to have them all there for the day of the launch. Now, Amazon, like I said, doesn't do that with anything except for their digital copy for some reason. It's only through Kindle you can do pre-orders right now. So what I did is I set up Ingram Spark to work in conjunction with my Amazon launch, so that if you wanted a hardcover or if you wanted a paperback, you could set up your pre-order on Amazon through Ingram Spark. It's kind of this weird setup that we'll cover on another video, but that is the benefit, as far as I'm concerned, as an independent author, to Ingram Spark, and why I would want to use them over, or at least in conjunction with Amazon, is that I can set up hardcover and paperback pre-orders so that I can get that 200, 500, 1,000 people that want to buy this thing before it goes live, and then you have a way higher, I think it's really the only way to hit bestseller on the day of or the week of, is by having pre-orders set up. So Ingram Spark is very important for that. I wanted to just put that out there for these first-time authors that are trying to get out in the market. These are things that you'll learn about, and you can start doing your own research as well while I'm still, preparing these videos for those specific topics. But the topic of the day is you can be published, and these are the ways how. So just to cover again the pros and cons here for legacy publishing as opposed to self-publishing. Legacy publishing is hard to break into. It's got all sorts of gatekeepers. There's massive financial commitment and IP ransoming, where they're going to be able to adjust your own IP. They have rights over it, which is, perhaps in perpetuity depending on your contract that you set up with them. Whereas self-publishing doesn't have the gatekeepers, has low to no barrier financially for entry, has print-to-order options. You can work through massive international conglomerates like Amazon and Ingram Spark. The difference between Amazon and Ingram Spark, the pros and cons. Amazon pros would be massive distribution, credibility and rankings. It's a big deal to have a bestseller status on Amazon that actually carries a certain amount of clout that then you can use as part of your portfolio moving forward. Maybe it interests both readers as well as future publishers. Print to order in multiple formats. Cons: not great returns sale to sale. You'd be better off honestly selling bulk, like buying bulk through Amazon and then selling them individually at like book shows, book fairs, stuff like that. You'll get a higher return per purchase or per sale in that way, but it's not impossible. It's something that you can do. There's no pre-orders on physical copies, which sucks in my opinion. And it is Amazon, so if you have an aversion to Amazon as the massive multi-billion or trillion-dollar super entity that it is worldwide, I get it, and it is something that you will be helping or having help you to get in there. And if you have an aversion to that, morally, that's your own thing, something to consider. Ingram Spark, it is like Amazon. It's a smaller book-centric community. But pros is there's a lot of people that are both authors and readers that will see your stuff through there. It can do the physical pre-orders, which is huge. The downside is that it's not as big as Amazon, and it takes a little bit more, I think, finagling on the back end to get set up. In my experience, it can be a bit of a nuisance in that way. But bottom line, you can self-publish. So if you're asking yourself, can I be a published author? Yes, the answer is yes. Should you self-publish? In my opinion, absolutely. I think the answer is yes. Unless you're already a celebrity or have a massive following, I think it's the only way to even get the attention of massive publishing contracts and deals that you might be looking for in the future. Getting on a TED Talk or something like that. If you're self-published, these are things that there are avenues to do if you can start showing the value for what you're putting out there into the world. The last question is, will you self-publish? And this is really the question that you have to ask yourself, and what I want to do through Write On as a incentive, as a motivation, as an inspiration is, will you self-publish? Here's the thing, the final gatekeeper is you, and you can, and all you have to do is do it. So go out there like Nike and just do it. I hope that helps for today, and make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, make sure to comment to help this through the algorithm. If it helped you, please help the channel back, and we'll see you on the next Write On.